Hid for a few weeks before it came to me. I had to choose my heart, heal and get free. She said life's easy, pain comes with living. Surround myself with everything God's given. It's time to change my routine, create a new scene that feels like an unreachable dream.
Happy Friday, everyone. You are sitting in on the 6th episode of Mentally How Are You with me. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. I am excited today because I've gotten a few emails and some of them are speaking about how nervous people are to start their first session. So today we are going to review what happens in the initial counseling session. That's right, for our Mind Matters segments, we are going to go over exactly what happens when you meet with a counselor for the first time. Now, many people become nervous when they have actually found a therapist. They've signed up for all that first session and now the day is here and it's time to meet, right? So you're saying, what do I say? What will they say? In fact, some people become so nervous that they actually cancel the session. Some reschedule and others decide to wait overall. Let me be the first to tell you, all of this is normal. Nothing about what you may be feeling for the initial session is bizarre or weird. It is simply real. So hopefully today I can ease your mind with letting you know the first session is primarily focused on building a rapport and gathering information. It's what we would like to call an assessment or an introduction of sorts. Let's start. To begin, the therapist will introduce themselves, their background, and explain their approach to therapy. So what that means is that the therapist will let you know what form of therapy they use normally. I know that sometimes people look at therapists and they think, oh, you can't be biased, you have to just serve everyone and provide everything. But that's not the case. In fact, when an individual presents in that manner, I would say to kind of raise your eyebrow a little bit, simply because we're human, right? A therapist is still a human, a counselor is still a human, so we do have biases. We do have different approaches that we lean more into, or ones that we just simply don't agree with or think are healthy or good or for us to use or for people to receive. So the therapist will introduce themselves and they may say something like, you know what, I perform CBT therapy. That's cognitive behavioral therapy. That just simply means that that's the approach that they take and use a lot of times, but it doesn't mean that that's the one they'll absolutely use with you. They'll just go over a few options, okay? The therapist will try to create a comfortable and safe environment, which may include some small talk to ease your anxiety. The therapist will explain their confidentiality policy. Now, when you first sign up for therapy and you do all the paperwork that you're going to do, which is just normally the paperwork involves signing a confidentiality agreement, meaning that you won't disclose information from the session and neither will the therapist. And then they'll go over the reasons why they would disclose any information from sessions, which is normally if someone is having some form of a crisis and they have to break confidentiality to tell, let's say, a hospital nurse that you are feeling suicidal, or if they have to tell a police officer that you're feeling like hurting others. That's the only time that we would break confidentiality. So the initial paperwork will be this. So you may get this in your initial paperwork, the confidentiality paperwork. However, once you've signed and you've agreed, the therapist will then go over all other forms of paperwork as well that is necessary to them. Now, each therapist is different, so it doesn't mean that you'll review it before the session or in the session with the therapist, but you absolutely will review it before you come into therapy with someone else, okay? The other paperwork that's included is giving information like your billing information, so your insurance card, your credit card if one is needed on file. You'll also receive documents just explaining what services are provided, any rules or regulations, especially if you're going into an office. But now, because telehealth is very popular, you also will go over rules and regulation for telehealth therapy as well. So you'll get this paperwork, which normally just requires you to read through what everything means and what everything is saying, and then it requires your signature. After that, you would give basic information just like you would give at a hospital: your name, your date of birth, your age, race, ethnicity, things like that, okay? All of those forms the therapist may not go over, but the confidentiality one, a lot of therapists like to review again within the session, just so everything is clear about when and how or why they would ever break confidentiality if needed, but mainly letting you know that everything you speak about is confidential. The therapist will ask about your reasons for seeking therapy. They'll ask your background and your current struggles. So what you can expect is questions about your history, your relationships, work, and overall life circumstances. This helps the therapist understand your situation and develop a treatment plan. You'll need to share why you're seeking therapy, your current symptoms, and your goals for treatment. Now, the most important tip I can give you is to be honest. While it can be a little scary, being open and honest with your therapist is crucial for effective treatment. Also, remember the session is for you as well, so it's time for you to assess the therapist as well. But I will say that the most important tact is for you to be honest. We need for you to come into a session and not just lay it all out there, but any questions that the therapist may have for you. It's better for you to answer honestly. And it's also best for you not to think of your therapist as a psychic or a prophet, right? Therapists don't have all of the answers in that way. We don't read minds, so you need to provide the information to this individual. I know that can seem a bit scary sometimes because some of us grew up just learning, no, whatever goes on in the home stays in the home. Whatever is my business is my business. But this is that time to share. It's no different from going to the ER and you're in pain and you need the doctor to know where you are in pain, when it started, how, and your thoughts of why. When the doctor asks those questions, if you don't give that information, then they're not able to help you the way that they need, or you end up going through a slew of tests that you never needed to take in the first place because they're trying to figure out what's happening with you. So I would recommend highly, do not make your therapist guess, do not make them wonder, just provide the information that you came to provide, and when they have questions, which they will have questions, the questions will help you out, remember that. When they have additional questions, it just means that it's helping you out for things that maybe you forgot about or things you weren't thinking about that are important to therapy. Answer those questions honestly and truthfully, and that will help your approach completely. But back to what I was saying, which is that it's your time to assess your therapist as well. It's time to assess whether you feel comfortable with therapy, with the therapist, and their approach. It's okay if you don't feel an immediate connection. It often takes a few sessions to build trust and rapport. Other matters and tips that I can provide is that you'll discuss practical aspects such as session frequency. So what this means is how many times you will see the therapist, right? Will you see them once a week? Will you see them twice a week, once a month? They'll go over what they think is needed for your treatment plan. They'll then go over how to contact the therapist between sessions. Now for this part, I do want to let it be known that every therapist does not have a contact directly to them. So like you can't call a direct phone to a therapist all the time. What they will do is have you connected to a help desk that is theirs. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie What About Bob? Hilarious to me. But in that movie, he was connected to a help desk when his therapist went out. This is actually how it is. It's not the big command center that they show in the film. However, there is an individual that's connected that takes the calls for the therapist when they're out or if they're not available at the time. And if a therapist is on a break, let's say a vacation or just away for their own emergency, then they always have a backup plan. So another therapist you can either speak to or someone on the team that you could speak to either reschedule your session or complete a session with that individual since the therapist is out. So they'll go over all those details with you and let you know how this goes. This is a part that a lot of people ignore. Don't ignore it because, again, therapists are human as well, and we have emergencies. We have situations that come up. We take vacations too. So sometimes we won't be available, and you'll need to know how to contact someone if you're having an emergency. Another tip I can give is for you not to be afraid to ask questions. This is your session as well. It's not just for the therapist to get to know you, it's for you to get to know the therapist. So by example, I can tell you that I've had some people ask me if I've ever been in therapy before. I've had guests ask me, listen to me, guest is for the show, client is for therapy. I've had clients ask me if I've had my own personal struggles and they wanted to know how I got through them. Now, I will tell you that therapists can only go as far as they can go legally. So they won't disclose all of their information, but everything about their therapeutic approach and what they provide to you, they will provide every answer in that regard. But some of us do share some personal details just because a personal testimony can help out sometimes. And again, they will let you know their limitations. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to tell a therapist what you're expecting and what you need from the session in your own thoughts at that time. Another tip is for you to be patient. Therapy is a process, and this is the first step to building a foundation. So be as patient as you can. Don't be so caught up in, oh my goodness, I'm in therapy now, so everything's going to be better. Now I'm going to be fixed. Let me just say that we frown upon the term being fixed in counseling. You're not here to be fixed. We're just here to help you grow and to heal. And that won't happen in the initial session. The initial session is for us to get to know one another. I would also say for you to allow yourself to feel your emotions and don't be afraid to express them. Say what you're thinking. Say what you're feeling. Now is not the time to hold back. It's the time to give in. Right? You've been holding back for so long. You've already been holding things within. So now is the time for you to let loose and let your therapist know exactly what is needed so that you could receive the true treatment that you need. Another thing I would say is for you to focus on your goals. Think about what you hope to achieve through therapy and discuss these goals with your therapist. Overall, it's a time for you to assess if the therapist is a good fit for you and for the therapist to determine the best approach to treatment. That's the first session. That's what it is. It's getting to know one another, and then you'll get into real therapy, into the treatment portion of it. But the first one is for you both to say, hi, I'm me. Hi, you're you, and then move forward from there. Now, because we're talking about initial sessions, let's go into our pop psych versus clinical psychology and bust up some myths. One of the biggest myths that I hear is that you must disclose everything. Let me tell you that this is not true, and it is also not possible. Remember, your first session is getting to know one another, so you're not going to lay all of your cards on the table, and it would be impossible for you to go through every detail that would need to be shared for therapy. It's just not realistic. That's why we have scheduled sessions. That's why you meet on a specific frequency, because there's no way to just say everything in one big gulp. It's just not possible. So that's not true. That is false. The second one I have is that therapists have all the answers. Well, I told you earlier, nope, that's not true. Therapy is a guide in the healing journey, and the therapist, we are literally a tool for you to get through your healing journey. We don't have all of the answers. Sometimes you'll be referred out for certain things. Sometimes we may suggest a book or other information that you may need to hear or see. At times, the therapist may tell you that you need to have someone else added to your treatment team, meaning you will see your counselor, but you will also see a psychiatrist or a dietitian, or you'll meet with someone that can go over an exercise routine for you. Whatever it may be, we don't work alone, and we don't know everything, and we don't present to you that we do. The third myth that I have is that you'll feel better instantly. Now, for some, you will feel a release, but significant change comes with the process. So I will say that whenever we initially complete the first session, especially because we had that common and very normal, those nervous jitters about going into therapy, once you complete the first session, you will feel relief. You'll feel at ease. You'll feel like, wow, I finally, got all of this stuff out that I've been holding in, or I started talking about things I said I would never talk about. Yes, you'll feel a little relieved. However, the significant change comes with the process. So remember that you may feel that way in that moment, but then the next week you may not feel the same way. That's very common. That's very normal, because one session is not the solution or the answer. This is just the first one. So just start here at step one, and then you'll work together to go to the next step and the next step and the next step. The fourth myth I have is that therapy is only for serious mental illnesses. Let me say this has been a lifelong holdup for many to begin the healing journey. Therapy helps with all, and everything is serious, right? I've heard this for so many years. When I first got into school to go into counseling myself, and I know so many of my colleagues and peers who have heard the same. I even heard it throughout my family that you only seek counseling when you have a serious mental health condition. Every mental health condition concern is serious. It's all serious. So there's no such thing as holding back or waiting because of one situation or because you've gotten to an extreme point. In fact, that's what breaks us. That's what tears us down or creates we just end up in a worse condition or situation because we've decided to hold back and wait and not take our health serious altogether. We figure we'll go to the doctor, we'll go to the dentist, we'll even go to church, but we will not go and seek counseling. how about you need all of those things together? So everything is serious. It's all necessary to come together. And mental health is it's very important at this point. I think everyone should understand that. So there's no such thing as this is one situation and I'll only go and see a therapist if this were the case. See a therapist right now. And if you're nervous about seeing a therapist, break the ice with seeing a life coach and then go into therapy. But either way, take your mental health very important and know that this is a complete myth. Now, those are our myths that we could bust up for today. Now I'd like to go into our mentally how are you question. I know you guys have been missing this from our last couple of visits, and that's just because we had guests on and we had other information to provide. But today I was able to pick out a question, and I thank you guys for writing in. It has been so exciting to see just, so many emails coming through with questions and concerns, and even those of you who have sent comments saying that you really like the show. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But today our question comes from an anonymous writer, and this writer writes, I saw a therapist for the first time with my ex-wife. We completed couples counseling because the marriage was falling apart. In therapy, I felt that the therapist was always taking her side and I was never really heard. So now I'm a little nervous, I guess you could say, about going to therapy myself. I do think it can help me, but I did not have a good experience the first time. Even with writing this, I think you will take the therapist's side. But how dare you? And I know people will say I can't take one experience and believe they all will be the same, but I just can't get past how the first one was. An example I can give is that my wife cheated. But I felt like I was the one she was blaming and the therapist, because we spent most of our time talking about what I was giving her as the reason why she cheated. Some of the things she named was not spending enough time with her and leaving everything about the kids on her. Not saying these shouldn't be concerns, but I was working, trying to provide, and I felt like there should be no reason to cheat, but we spent therapy going over how she felt and talking about this stuff instead of what she did, and now we're divorced. I even told the therapist how I felt, and we still talk the same way. If that therapist didn't listen then, what therapist will listen now? Okay. One, I'm sorry to hear about the divorce, and I'm so sorry to hear that you felt this way in therapy. I do have to be honest, with couples therapy, it can be kind of difficult. It can feel this way at times, right? I'm not going to deny what you are saying you experienced. It can absolutely feel like your side is not being heard and one person's side is being heard more than yours or the others. So I will say that, one, when going into couples therapy, remember that it's two of you sitting with a counselor, and the counselor has to hear both of you out. So at times, there will be a focus on one person versus the other in the session. This doesn't mean that the therapist is trying to neglect you. It's just that you're two different people, and the therapist or the counselor has to get both of your background, your information, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions into play so that you can begin to discuss it. Now, I don't know how long this person was in therapy, but I know that that is a process and it takes time. So it can absolutely feel that way. However, I do believe that once you address that it felt this way, again, I apologize because I feel that the counselor should have switched something up or at least address that feeling within the session. I know that you can't write me all of the details in the email, but I'm hoping that happened. If it didn't, again, I apologize on behalf of counselors everywhere. I will say that for this specific question for you, you're asking about seeing a therapist now. Now it seems like you're divorced, you're to yourself, whether you're in a relationship or not. You haven't said that you've moved forward with a new marriage. So I think that right now you need to focus on you, and you're saying that you know that therapy could help you. So why deny yourself counsel when you know that you need it just because of one experience? You're absolutely right. I am one of those people that will say just because one thing occurred doesn't mean that it will happen consistently or always. So I would kind of counsel you into just scooting in a little bit and seeing somebody. Even if you joined a group therapy session, that would be good to start with. Let's say you don't want to do one-on-one sessions with a therapist because you're just not trusting right now. That's okay. But maybe do a group therapy session, or you could even do divorce care. Divorce care is a real thing. they have groups and they also have individual sessions that would be great to step into after being married and having something so strong like cheating go on in the marriage. That's a lot of hurt to carry, even if you feel like you're over it or you're past it. That's a lot to carry. So divorce care would probably be the best next option before you step into just individual therapy for yourself. Join a divorce care group. Go over how you felt in the sessions. Go over how you felt about the actual topic and the matter. Go over the details that you just shared with me. In fact, you can read your email to a therapist to start a session and say, hey, this is how I felt, and these are my questions in this initial session. How will you best cater to me? How will you speak to me and help me be reassured that the focus is all about me? You could read your email to a therapist even. But I would say don't hold back. Don't fight yourself, because that's what's happening. Don't fight yourself, and don't allow the last experience that you had to keep you from the healing that could be right in front of you and that you're saying you want and you need. One bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. We've heard this, I've heard it my whole lifetime, and it's very true. I think that you should move forward and seek counsel in another way, in another form first, which that could gently glide you into therapy. Or you should go into therapy and be honest, just like you were in this letter to me, and let it be known how you feel and what you're apprehensive about. That would be helpful to a therapist to know, because then you guys could start with breaking that trust, that mistrust, and then building a trust for therapy altogether, then going into what you need to discuss and talk about. And I'll say from the tone of your letter, it sounds like there's a lot you need to release, especially since you didn't get to release it in those sessions. It sounds like you were trying to be a provider. You were trying to put things together for your home, which is something that men often suffer with and deal with, is this guilt of trying to advance and provide, but then also trying to also be there and be engaged and active, which it takes balance. And that balance sometimes has to be taught and learned, or retaught and relearned. So I would say to either step into divorce care. If you don't want to do divorce care, then step into some type of group therapy session. If those options are not for you and you just want to take a chance at therapy, take the chance, take the step. Speak with a new counselor, let them know your fears, let them know your concerns and what happened previously, and then go into treatment for yourself, because you need it so that you can grow and move forward. And this advice I give to anybody else in a situation like this: do not allow for one situation to just mess up your actual healing journey. I always let clients know that every therapist is not for everybody. It's just the truth. I am probably not the counselor to see if you don't want somebody who's going to be very bold in your face, who's going to challenge you at times, right? I tell my clients often in my brief introduction when they first meet me, hey, you know what? I am this way. This is how I handle therapy. If at any point you feel like you don't like this or you don't want therapy in this form, let me know. My feelings will not be hurt. Let me know, and we'll help you get to someone who can better help where you are and meet you where you are right now. So every therapist is not for everybody. That's why there's a whole bunch of us. That's why you can go on a place like Psychology Today and type in your zip code and see a grand list of therapists. You get to pick, you get to choose. Go over their bios, read their bios, and then discover how you want to be handled, how you would like to go into therapy. And this would help with any negative experience or just want an experience you didn't like previously. But do not allow it to stop you from healing. It would be the same way to say, oh, you know what, I didn't like the way that my doctor spoke to me before the surgery, so I'll never get surgery again, even if I need it. So then you wouldn't be here. Why would you do that? Right? Why would you stop your care? It's the same thing that applies for mental health therapy. Do not stop yourself. Go ahead and seek the help, and hopefully some of the suggestions that I just put out there can help you with moving forward and advancing. But thank you for writing in, and I hope that things are better for you. Now, for our toolbox technique segment today, for the rest of the month, let me just be honest, we will be reviewing the guidelines and the steps for every man to take to enter our gift away. So we won't actually have a toolbox technique until the month of July. If you are a man looking for mental health services, but you don't know where to start, look no further. Your girl's got you. I'm here. Enter our gift away to win 1 free assessment and 3 free counseling sessions. That is a total of 4 therapeutic sessions adding up to way past $1,500. So Mentally How Are You will sponsor this prize to one man who completes the registration guidelines. Fellas, all you need to do is follow us on Instagram at mentally_how-are-you on Instagram, subscribe to ACTV on YouTube, and email your contact information to us at mentallyhowareyou@gmail. June is Men's Health Awareness Month, and we are focused on making sure that men retrieve a state of mental well-being. So send this episode to any man who you feel they may feel a little nervous or apprehensive about signing up for therapy so that they can review how the initial session will go. Remember, it's time for us to move past the stigma and grow. The best time was yesterday, but the next best time is now. So right now, in this moment, begin to speak more about mental health services, begin to speak more to others about where you could go to get help, and share these episodes. I'm trying my best to give you guys as much as you can take in so that you can receive the help that you need. So again, fellas, sign up for this gift away. The man that wins will start therapy in July and move forward with your 4 free sessions. And don't worry, I've gotten some emails about what will happen after the 4th session. We won't leave you hanging. You'll still be able to receive services, but it will be either through insurance that has been set up for you or insurance that you already have, or we'll be able to connect you to a program that would help you out on a sliding scale or help meet you where you are financially for services. But it won't just be 4 services and then you're done. I would never do that to you. So you will have a full package after this. It's just that your first 4 ones will be free. I would like to extend a happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and a happy belated Juneteenth to everyone. If you did not celebrate yesterday, but you plan to do so this weekend, be safe and spread love. As always, thank you all for sitting with me on this episode of Mentally How Are You? It is my hope that you are leaving more stable than when you came in. I'll see you guys next week.
No judgment, just love, so I can be me. I'm tired of hearing it's okay not to be okay. Just want the dark days to go away. Mentally, how are you? How are you? Yeah. I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want to. Mentally, how are you? Yeah. I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want to.